In today's video I want to talk about the new Goblin event and why it's the best thing that happened to D4 this patch. It's absolutely amazing for boss materials, dropping hundreds of them per hour, easily sustaining you and everybody trying to buy new mats. Now this is of course not all. More uniques, greater affixes, more mythics, and just a great way to gear any twink you would want to gear bring joy to my heart. It's an amazing way to get gear, especially for characters that are off meta or even meta, because the prices are skyrocketing, like billions and billions and billions of gold for the best items, for the best builds, and you cannot really find items for builds that are off meta. So this is a great way to gear your characters in a solo self-found manner. But there's of course more to it. Because of all the goblin drops you can pick up, you can salvage a ton of stuff, get a ton of materials for just re-rolling your gear. You get a ton of greater affixes, not because the chance is higher, but because there is just an amazing amount of loot dropping. At this point, the only loot filter you need is the greater affix star, and anything else is basically not going to be worth it to pick up. So you run around, pick up all the unique items, all the greater affix items, and then go back to town. Well, actually no, because goblins also drop treasure bags. You can find regular treasure bags that contain just legendary items with a chance to have a greater affix on them, and a chance to also drop unique items. And there is a greater bag. A greater treasure bag has a guaranteed chance for a unique item, at least one of them. I have seen multiple drop from one bag, and those have also a very reasonable chance to drop as a greater affix, which makes gearing very pleasant. Now, but the best thing about the event are the boss materials. A ton of them drops, like a ton. I've managed to grab hundreds of boss materials in just a few hours of gameplay. It is an amazing event for this, especially in groups, especially when you do Nightmare Dungeon hundreds with extra shrines. With a group of 4 people, you can just run around the instance, one pops the greed shrine, and you spawn so many treasure goblins. You are just drowning in mats at this point, which is an amazing source for mythic items, for greater affix items, for just uniques from that specific boss. There are very rare unique items that are very hard to come by, especially Exquisite Blood for Lord Seer is a very sought after item. We need a ton of runs for a ton of uniques that are just very build defining, like Wild Heart Hunger or Kruror's Embrace. Very strong items for those builds, very much needed, give you a ton of damage. So you can circumvent buying those items for billions of gold. Now there's a few kinks to this event. First up, you want to get the highest item level possible. So you want to do at least Nightmare Dungeons level 60, somewhere around that point, to guarantee 925 gear. Nightmare Dungeons are not actually the best source. They are a side grade to Hell Tides. Hell Tides are this time around very good for treasure goblins. There's 4 to 5 treasure goblin spawns in the Hell Tide. You can find them, and when you beat them, you have a chance to spawn 1 to 2 extra treasure goblins. So you can get up to 12 treasure goblins here. Now those treasure goblins also drop boss materials, the treasure bags, greater treasure bags, and of course can also drop sigils. And those sigils have a very high chance, or are guaranteed at this point, to be modified by the extra shrine affix on them. Now the extra shrine affix has a very high chance to spawn also a greed shrine in them. So you have like 5 extra shrines in a dungeon, in a Nightmare Dungeon. And when you pop a greed shrine, you spawn a ton of treasure goblins when you beat enemies. So any dungeon with a high monster density is going to benefit from this greatly, especially in a group with 4 people. When they all pop the greed shrine and wander into different directions, they can beat the treasure goblins on their own. They drop the loot, and you get basically a multiplier on the loot you get. All of them drop boss materials, all of them drop the treasure bags. Now finding a party for this can be either done in-game in the party finder tool or in the Sanctuary Discord. I highly recommend this one for the event. They have a special Discord channel for this one. Just look for a group there and you can pop your Nightmare Dungeons. Now if you are going with solo self-found and don't want a group, you can do this just fine. I personally am solo self-found for this event and have still managed to grab a ton of materials, a ton of greater affix items. And the best thing about extra shrines is that some of them can be cursed. There is approximately a 1 to 10 chance for a shrine to be cursed. It constantly spawns monsters around the shrine, which also spawn more treasure goblins. Now this is not exclusive to just shrines. You can also find cursed chests, so loot any chest that sparkles, and you can also pop cursed healing wells. So every time you run past a healing well or chest, try to open it with a greed shrine enabled. This has a potential to spawn this event, and you can grab more and more treasure goblins this way. But for Nightmare Dungeons, you have to remember it is not the open world. So when you kill a treasure goblin, it doesn't spawn 1 to 2 extra treasure goblins. This is only specific to Hell Tides, the open world. So whenever you do a world boss, for example, Avarice comes to mind. When this boss is stunned, he spawns 2 treasure goblins. When you kill those also spawn 1 to 2 additional treasure goblins, so you can farm basically 10, potentially more treasure goblins this way just from one world boss, so don't miss this specific world boss. Now, this sums up the video. Make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next time. Bye!